So I'm going the other direction. What am I dealing with in part A?
It's a R.
R squared.
It's a R.
What am I dealing with though first? That's a circle. If we complete, because it's x squared, y squared, same number, both positive, same number in front. The negative 6 would go with the x and I'd have to complete the square. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. That tells me I'm shifting the circle to the left 3, but not up or down any. So when we get down, we should have a circle shifted to the left 3, not up or down. Square that negative 3, it should have a radius of 3 also. Okay. I heard a lot of people right away say x squared plus y squared is r squared minus 6.
Just R.
X is r cosine of theta.
Should be R squared.
So we're going to factor an r out. Factoring r out of each of those terms leaves me with an r out front and an r.
It says
Os.
It says O.
6 cosine theta. Okay. Set both of those factors equal to 0. So r is equal to 0. R minus 6 cosine of theta equals 0, which you just add that to the other side. So you end up with these two things. What is this? What r equals is what?
Undefined.
0, 0.
Yeah, it's like saying the circle with radius of 0.
That's true.
How can you draw it? Well, now a dot, right? We could zoom in on it and measure with stuff we have today that you've actually drawn a circle with some sort of radius to it, right? So radius of 0 in your head should kind of, it's like a black hole. There's nothing there. It just sucks it all in, right? So if you can get r equal to 0, we don't need it because it doesn't make sense to have a circle with radius of 0. So it's just that. R equals 6 cosine of theta. So let's double check our. We think it's cosine of theta. Shift it to the right. It did not go up or down, and it looks like it has radius of 3. So that's what. Right?
Yeah.
Do we ever like? Do we ever really need something like that?
My mind is blown. Another dimension of looking at the world.
No, this is not a lit. This is a linear equation. This is linear equation. So x equals r cosine, y equals r sine. I'm going to factor the r out of both of them. And then what do you do? You just divide by everything in the parentheses, and you end up with negative 2 on top being divided by 3 cosine of theta minus 6 sine theta. So as you're finishing writing that down, I'll come back to it, but we're going to graph it. What, this is linear. If you put the negative 2 over there, what's the slope? Or if you solve it for y, you'd have negative 2 would go over the 2 would go over as a negative, the 3x would go over as a negative, and you divide them both by negative 6. So what's negative 3 divided by negative 6? 1/2 x. What's negative 2 divided by negative 6? So we should have something that crosses the y, or touches the y-axis at 1/3 and has 1 over 2 for a slope. So for every one it goes up, it goes over 2 horizontal. And 6 side. So always on top of 2.
Negative 2.
Oh geez. Negative 2 is being divided by 3 cosine of theta plus 6. Oh, jeepers. Sorry. Minus 6 sine of theta. Close that, close that.
Wait, that's not a thing.
Now, that's stopped because we're limiting from 0 to 360. You know, you could get this thing to extend a little bit, but does that look like it has slope of 1 to 2? Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Parabola.
It is a parabola. Very nice.
The next one's linear.
That was
Yeah.
So the y squared, now when I go to write that out, I'm going to write it as r sine of theta being squared, and x is r cosine, so 2r cosine theta. What do we need to do here?
Foil.
We could square both of those things and bring over the 2r cosine of theta. Get it set equal to 0. We can factor out the r. It would leave behind r sine squared of theta minus 2 cosine of theta. Setting this r equal to 0, that doesn't make sense, right? Can't have a circle with radius 0. So really, I just need to set this one equal to 0. So what we're going to do is take this term to the other side and divide by sine squared. So the 2 cosine of theta goes to the other side, and we divide by sine squared of theta. Now, what kind of parabola do we have in the beginning? When it's y squared. Y squared. Tipped on its side. 4p equals 2. The p value is positive 1/2. What does that tell you? It would open to the right. So this thing should take a look. On top, I have 2 cosine of theta, right? Being divided by what? Sine squared. Now to get that in there, we have to go sine of theta squared. Parabola tipped on its side, opening to the right.
It's the same as the.
Y equals x. You would r sine of theta, r cosine of theta. So you'd subtract your r cosine to this side. So you know y equals x is we've already done this problem going the other direction. So it's a slope of 1, intercept of 0. But in this case, you would divide or factor out the r. That didn't help.
No, it didn't. Wait, is it linear though?
But that didn't help, and that's the technique that we used earlier today, right?
Sure.
In these previous problems. So in this one, I think it's easier to understand if we divide by x, maybe on both sides, we end up with y over x is equal to 1. What is another name for y over x?
Tangent.
Tangent of theta. Something like that.
Okay,
That would be the answer.
that's way easier, let's leave that.
Yay.
I don't like that either.
I like it, so I'm circling it.
I'm like a Casper, just like it.
That's where do you like it?
Something about it is.
Cause I don't like it.
I want it to go right there.
I don't
That'd
have
be
to
the
play
answer.
with it. It's a hard goal.
Let's just sit in the night, stare at it, and shake our heads.
So what do we have to do?
I was putting
Oh, I
phone
forgot.
on it, so.
Divide by seven, I think.
I reversed it all.
What are we gonna do?
Inverse tangent.
One of the sine, cosine.
It doesn't matter which one we're talking about. We've already done this problem going in the other direction. So when you look at y equals x, you're coming up with a linear, slope of 0, or excuse me, slope of 1, intercept of 0. You already know that in this rectangular mode. So what do we need to do with this problem so that in polar mode, it does turn out the right way? We introduced r sine of theta, r cosine of theta, and that doesn't work really because you end up with r sine of theta minus r cosine of theta, factor out the r, and we're kind of stuck.
Is this one undefined? You just not put anything like that. You just put cosine always.
Where did we start on the other problem?
Where was the other thing?
Theta equals power of 4, right? Or theta equals 45. That's what we have to get to. So you could, when you did the y over x is equal to 1, tangent,
Tangents equal 1 equals
right, so we could do our inverse tangent here.
Hey, I was told.
And what is the inverse tangent of 1? 45 degrees, or you could write it pi over 4. So this is the one when you are in polar mode. You can't get it to be r equals so that you can type in your calculator. It's the same way you can't do x equals in function mode. You can only do y equals. So that's what makes that one a little bit different going this direction. Good.